to be here with you this evening, along with my fabulous Palm Cove staff. And thank you, Coach Charpentier and Coach Ojeda, our SAC coordinators, SAC chairs. They did a wonderful job. So tonight, I want to go over what to expect, what you can expect and your child can expect for our FSA testing season that is amongst us. Now, students, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So if you don't mind, please hold all your questions till the end. Once we get through the presentation, I will definitely answer all your questions. Okay, so what is the FSA? FSA is short for the Florida Standards Assessment, and it is an assessment that in grades K through 12 that measures students' achievement on the Florida education standards, the Florida standards, and it basically allows students to be college and career ready, and the standards that the teachers teach, we basically assess them to see if they are up to par. All right. And basically in layman's terms, to develop a concept, hold on one second. Yeah, sorry about that. To develop a concept beyond an opinion and move to support and evidence. So basically when students, they have to read text in reading and answer questions and answer math questions as well. There's a math portion and there's a writing and a science, and we'll get to that. Who participates? So based on the Florida statute, all public school students, they have to take the FSA assessment. Including our ELL students, which are English language learners. They must participate in the assessment. And students that are ESC, unless they have their off standards, and they take the alternative, FSAA is what it's called. So what subjects and grades are tested? All tests will be paper-based this year, and it must be given at school. So there is no option for online testing. So that's why we created a schedule to assist with this so that we can follow CDC guidelines, and we'll get a little bit into that. Follow CDC guidelines and to test all the students that we need to test in grades 3 through 5. So in grades 3 through 5, those students will be taking the FSA reading test or the ELA test. Grades 4 to 5, if you have a child that's in 4th and 5th grade, they take, in addition to the reading, they will take the writing, which is 1 session. And if you have a child that's in grades 3, 4, and 5, they will take the reading. If a student that's in 3rd grade, they take the reading and the math. A student that's in 4th grade, they will take the reading, the writing, and the math. And if you have a student that's in 5th grade, they will take the reading, the writing, the math, and the science. So they take all the assessments in 5th grade. So what does that look like? So that all tests are timed. The writing test, which is only 1 session, students take it in 1 day in grades 4 and 5, is 120 minutes, 2 hours. They do get a little break, but during that time, there's no snacks during testing. And they, like I said, they take a little 5-minute break after 60 minutes. In reading, in grades 3, 4, and 5, for both reading, math, and science, students are assessing for 80 minutes each day. So there's 2 sessions. On day 1, they take the first part of the test, which is 80 minutes. And then on the second day, they take the other half of the assessment that also takes 80 minutes. So for example, students will test reading day 1 and day 2. And then the following week, or maybe that same week, they will take the math on day 1 and day 2. And then for 5th grade, they'll take their tests again another week, day 1 and day 2. So right now, as of right now, we only have April's schedule. So April's schedule is going to assess 3rd grade, for reading only, they're going to take their math in May. 4th grade, they're only taking their writing. They're going to take their ELA and math in May. 5th grade, they're going to take their writing the same time that 4th grade takes their writing. And again, in May, they will take their ELA and their math. So the month of April, it's 3 grades testing and only 2 subjects. Okay. So I did send a calendar via Parent Link. It's also on Canvas, and it's also on our Canvas, on our school's website. So what you're going to receive a letter after spring break with your child's exact date. These dates that you see here are general dates, okay? So we're gonna give you specific dates for students that have any students that have accommodations, meaning they need extra time, they have an IEP, they have to be tested in small setting, which is called flexible seating or scheduling. They have to be tested one-on-one. So those students will receive a different date. Not everyone is going to be tested on the same day because we have to account for CDC guidelines, make sure there's enough coverage because we want the teachers to test their own students as much as possible without those receiving, except those that are receiving certain accommodations. Okay, so this schedule that you see here, for the first start of testing is going to be for 3rd grade, which is April 12th and the 13th. So students that are e-learning, they're going to be coming on that day for 3rd grade. 4th and 5th grade, if they're face-to-face, students test, as you can see where the dates are, that's their testing date. However, there are some students that are e-learning that are going to have to come in on the 19th. For example, we have a teacher that may have 5 students in their class, but they have, let's say, 22 total. 5 of them are face-to-face, the remaining are e-learning. So that we can have more students and to also follow for CDC guidelines, that teacher is going to probably have to call another 6 students from e-learning to come and join the 5 students that are testing face-to-face. So that maybe on one day they'll have 12, the other day they'll have 10 students, and we'll still follow CDC guidelines. So we will be sending you an exact date on when to bring your child to school for testing. Now, last week, you may have received some phone calls from my office staff and myself asking if you needed bus transportation and or if your child was going to be eating lunch at school. Thank you so much for all the parents that replied, and we had some teachers also help with those when we couldn't get in contact with you. So if you need bus transportation because you're eligible, and we only called parents who were actually eligible, we received a list from the district that lets us know all the students that are eligible to take the test. I'm sorry, to ride the bus, And then we called because some parents, they choose to actually take their child to school so they don't need a bus. But on that day, you may need a bus. So if you need transportation, please let us know, okay? Hold on one second. I'm sorry. All righty. So I'm going to go back here. All right, so just to kind of give you a little breakdown, this might be foreign for you, but basically for the ELA content, students will be exposed to key ideas. This is basically the breakdown. They're going to see a little bit of literature and informational text. And then the DOK levels, which is the levels of thinking, the types of questions they're going to be asked. Majority of the questions that's asked is here at the DOK Level 2, as you can see, 60 to 80% of those questions are those moderate level thinking, where it's more like two-step problems, except if, for example, the low level might be asking, you know, just an example, if you're reading a story and they ask you how many pigs were in the story of Three Little Pigs, it was 3. That's low level. And so it kind of gets more complex as the higher the level. So students in grades 3 through 5 will respectively receive these types of questions according to their grade level. So again, just to give you a little bit, and this is relating only to ELA right now, they receive informational and literary. And informational just basically means providing readers where the students will be able to read a passage. They read a story about facts. It may be, they may give them a poem. They may give them not a poem, sorry, that's literary. They may give them a newspaper article, biographies, and they have to get facts. They have to answer questions with facts. And then the literary passage, they may get receive a poem, short stories. And again, they have to be able to answer those questions. So it's very important that if your child, let's say, doesn't come home with homework, always, always, always have them reading at least 20 minutes a day. Have them exposed to lots of different types of reading. Because when they get to 3rd grade, as you can see on the test in 3rd grade, they may receive passages over the 2 days that they're testing between 100 and 700 words. And then look at the difference between 4th grade and 5th grade. 4th grade is 100 to 900 words in a passage, or all collectively. And then 5th grade, anywhere between 200 to 1,000. So it's very important that our students are reading at home, even if we don't assign them any homework. Okay, so writing, what the students can expect in grades 4 and 5, they will either get an opinion piece of writing or informative writing. Okay, there's a total of 10 points on the writing. Now the writing, in order for them to get an ELA score, they have to take the writing because it's embedded with the score, the overall score. So if a student takes the ELA, receive a score. So even though those are 2 different tests, they actually are very important. They go together. Okay. So with the writing, what our teachers have been doing, they've been using a writing rubric, and it's the same state rubric that the state uses, so that the students can be exposed to how they will be graded. They participate in simulations prior to the assessment, and the teachers do provide them practice on both informational and opinion writing. And we stress very importantly that we do not want the students to copy from the text, because it is considered plagiarism, and they can receive a no score or a 0. And this is just a little example of what the writing rubric looks like and the sample. So as you can see, it's a lot of writing that the students have to do. And remember, this is only for grades 4 and 5. And also for 4th grade, they may receive 2 stories, 2 prompts, or not prompts, 2 articles where they have to read both articles and then come up with their writing. 5th grade, they usually get 3 sources. So they have to read a long paragraph here, maybe not so long, and maybe a short one here. And they all have the same topic, and they have to put it together, think about it. So it's not only writing, it's really comprehension as well, because they have to, 1, read it, 2, synthesize what they've just read and put it together, and to understand it, process it, and then put it out on paper. So this is what our students in 4th and 5th grade will see. They get time to plan. That's why it's 120 minutes, because they do suggest that they kind of plan accordingly, not going over 30 minutes, so they have time to actually write their essay. And the planning sheet is not scored. Okay, so we have some writing tips here. So we always share with our students, we want them to read the prompt, determine whether it is asking for an informational slash explanatory explanation or an opinion or argument. Really, it's more information and opinion. And we teach them how to find the keywords, read the text looking for the details to support information or the opinion, using the planning sheet, making sure that in your writing, the students clearly state what the idea or the argument is. They use details from the passages. They cite their sources. For example, you may see in your child's writing, they say, according to source 1, or John in source 2 stated. Yes, this is very elaborate writing. We're preparing our scholars for the future. So that's some tips we've been sharing with our students. So now when it comes to ELA, our students will be exposed to these types of questions: multiple choice, multi-select, selectable text, multi-part, table match, and editing tasks. What are all of these, you're asking, right? So these are the types of questions they will see on their test. This is an example of a multiple choice question. As you can see, they state the question and the students has to pick one question. This is a multi-select. This may be a little difficult to answer, but you select, they give you the question, and then you have to select 2 reasons. So it's not only just answering one, giving one answer, you have to give 2. And you have to get both correct in order to get the whole question correct. This is a selectable text. So basically here, the student has to fill in the circle before the sentence from the passage, and they're all reading this, they're given a passage. And ELA stands for, it's English Language Arts, which is basically reading. So they read the passage and then they have to actually circle the choice before the sentence from the passage that shows why the man believes that his cheeses can bring themselves to the market. Again, this is comprehension where the student has to really remember what they read so that they can answer the questions correctly. Then we have a table match. That's right. So they may see fill in the circles to show the order of steps ants take to leave their homes during a flood. So they have to figure it out. What happened first from the story? Then what happened next? And what happened finally? Again, these are all questions that are comprehension questions that students have to answer based on the passage that they read. Editing tasks. This is another question that they may see. They read a passage and you see the word, the underlined word. They have to choose the correct word or phrase that goes with it. So it's a little grammar in there. And then the multi-part. Some of our students, they do have a little difficulty with this because, again, they have to answer both parts correctly. So once they read the passage, they have to answer part A and then answer part B. There's no partial answer, partial correct answer on the FSA. It's either you get all of it right or they're wrong. All right, moving on to mathematics. So again, this is related to math, the DOK level, and DOK level is short for depth of knowledge, basically how the difficulty or critical thinking that's required with that level. And on the math, it ranges between 60 to 64 questions on the test. But remember, it's broken down in 2 sessions, okay? And they have 80 minutes on both. And this is the breakdown for 3rd grade. 48% will be, the students will see 48% of the operations and algebraic thinking in numbers in base 10, 17% numbers and operations and fractions, 35% measurement data and geometry. 4th grade, this is the breakdown for the math that they will see on the FSA. 5th grade, this is what they will see. And here are the types of questions that students in grades 3 through 5 may see on the FSA. Again, multiple choice, multi-select, table match, response grid, and editing tasks. So this is an example of a multiple choice question. They pick only one answer. Another question they may see is a multi-select items. Remember, just like the ELA, they may have to select all the answers that apply. Multi-select items will always have more than one answer. It may have two, it may have three, it may even have four. Another question, table match. They have to match the answers to the question. Match each number to the value of the number rounded to the nearest 10. Now, this is very important because this is the gridded response where the students in grades 3, 4, and 5 will actually see a question like this. So tomorrow is our drive up, materials drive up for grades 3 through 5. It is extremely important, parents, if you have students that are learning at home, that you come tomorrow, because the teachers have prepared packets to prepare them for FSA. It's not to be done during spring break. Again, this is practice so that they can have something tangible and actually answer the questions. And for the math, we're providing them with the gridded response because they may do it in class online. However, if they don't know how to complete it on paper, being that the test for FSA is paper-based, if they even get one decimal wrong, or they put the wrong number in the wrong place, the answer is wrong. So that's why we're encouraging all parents, please tomorrow, please drive up. You don't even have to get out of your car. We're gonna give you all the materials that your child will be doing with their teacher upon our return from spring break, okay? So again, they show you the correct way to complete the graded response and the incorrect way. Okay. And the reference sheets, it's really great that they do provide a reference sheet. They don't have to memorize all of these facts because in the test book on the FSA for math, they do provide it. However, they need practice on how to use the reference sheet. So again, we're providing this with our materials pickup so that the students will have practice during FSA. Okay. So on to the science, I'm just gonna stay right here. Let me just stop real quick. I have to admit someone in the lobby. All right, I just admitted someone, so I didn't want to leave anybody out. Okay, so now we're gonna go to science. Science is only for 5th grade, okay? 5th grade, they take the science. Again, it's over a course of 2 days, and it's about 60 to 66 questions. On day 1, they'll probably see half of the questions, and on day 2, they'll see the other half, okay? And I like to say the science is like a reading test just on science, because really students have to not only know the background, but they really have to read it and really understand what the question is asking them. That's why it's very important that we teach the science starting from kindergarten, because when they get to 5th grade, there are certain standards that are not taught in 5th grade because they should have been taught in grades K to 4. So it's very important that we teach science from K to 5, and these are some of the questions that they will see. Okay, and this is only 5th grade. So students will have to read the text, they'll have to look at the pictures, they'll look at the graphs, and then they'll be able to answer the questions. All right, very important, please, 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 parents, this is so important. We do not want any tests validated. So before, we're gonna ask if anybody that's just joining us, if you can mute for me, please, thank you. So before testing takes place, please make sure you speak to your child about any electronic devices, such as cell phones, a smartwatch, cameras. None of those should be in arm's reach, okay? If they have, let's say, an iPhone or not an iPhone, an Apple Watch or a smartwatch, please, if you can for that day, even cell phones, let them leave it at home or in the car with you because they won't need it. If they need to get in contact with you, we'll call you. And because if it's on or if it's near them, unfortunately, we will have to invalidate the test, and we don't want that. So please make sure the day of the test, they do not bring their cell phones or even any smartwatches. Their smartwatches can't even be on them, okay? And only because, you know, a lot of those have access to the internet, they have access to the calculators, so we don't want that. All right, so what can you do at home? So you can definitely continue with iReady, have conferences with your teachers, read every night, so important. Ask your child's questions while they're reading and after they're reading, even if it's not a book from school. If they read a book from the library or you have your own home library, after they read a question, have them read to you out loud. The way you get better at doing something is practice. And so I like to do the same thing with my own kids where I tell them to read something to me and then I ask them questions, basic questions like who was in the story? What was the problem in the story? Why did this happen? So very important. And then make sure you ask your child, use text evidence. I like to ask, how do you know? Don't just accept, oh, I don't know, or because the book says it. No, show me where it says that Tommy fell off a bike. Why did he do that? Show me where it says that, because in the text, they're going to have to do that. All right. So for math, practice the multiplication and division tables. Make it a game, make it fun, and then review your child's homework. iReady is so important. So we have a little competition every week of the class who has the highest passing rate, which is 70% or higher, and the usage. And so every week we announce those teachers. So they've been doing really good, really great on them. So we recommend anywhere from 30 minutes or more, but no more than 45 minutes a week. Because when a student is on it for like hours, it's not really a competition, and we don't want them to be on there because they can be on there very long, but if they're not passing lessons, then the iReady lessons will actually turn off. And we don't want that. We would rather them spend a lot of time on a lesson and pass it versus spending hours on iReady, but they keep failing the lesson, okay? All right, so being that we did not take the FSA last year, the only learning gains we're going to be receiving is from our 5th graders that had a FSA score from 3rd grade. Everybody else is just proficiency, okay? And so and the learning gains is really just a way to calculate what our grade is gonna be, if that's even gonna count this year, but we're saying that it's counting because we haven't heard anything otherwise. But if a student, let's say in 3rd grade, because they're in 5th grade right now, if they received a level 1, that means we would want them to go up a level, either to, they're called subgroups, or to a level 2. If a student scored a level 2, again, they must go up a sub-level or they must get a 3. And by the way, the lowest is a 1, the highest for reading and math and science is a level 5, okay? The lowest score they can get, 1 is not passing, 5 is the highest, okay? And if a student in 3rd grade scored a level 3 or 4, they must maintain the level 3 or 4 and increase 1 point for them to get a learning gain. And in 5th grade, or I'm sorry, if they receive this level 5, they can go anywhere within that level 5. They can go down a point or up a point and they still get a learning gain because they scored a level 5. So that's kind of how the learning gains are calculated. So we want all our students to get a 3 and above. We want all our students. Okay, so you may ask, okay, well, what happens if my child does not pass the FSA? For 3rd grade is that mandatory retention grade. So basically what that means is if a student must pass the FSA. If they do not pass the FSA, then they have to take alternative assessments, which are state approved, and they're considered good cause, okay? So one way is there's a portfolio that students have been taking since the month of January. If they pass all those portfolio, but they failed the FSA, they're promoted. Another way that they can pass to go on to the next grade is on the iReady. The last iReady window is in April, except for third grade. Third grade's last diagnostic is going to be in May, and they must score a 534. That is the magic number, 534 or higher. So April, when everybody's taking the FSA in grades K through 2, 4 to 5, third grade will not be taking theirs until May, okay? And then there's also summer school. Summer school is going to be in the month of June. We will give you more information on those students that are eligible for summer school, and summer school is going to be from June to July, okay? And then there's also, this is all for third grade. There's also another way if they don't pass. So let's say if they don't pass the FSA, they don't pass the iReady, they don't pass summer school, at the beginning of August, they actually take another test to see if they pass. And then also there's something called the SAT 10. They must get a 45% or higher to pass. And then again, like I said, the student portfolio, we started in about January actually. And every month they take, the student portfolio is basically reading passages where the students have to read the passages, answer them, and they're based on about, I think, 13 or 14 standards that they must pass, okay? But all decisions are gonna be made based on on a student by student basis, and we'll definitely cross that bridge when we get there, but we're gonna do everything that we can to make sure that our students are successful for any test that they take, okay? So for grades 4 and 5, you may be asking, what if they fail the FSA? A student does not necessarily need to pass the FSA to be promoted. If, let's say, something were to happen and they did not pass, but of course, all of our students are going to do well, we do have alternative assessments that they can take in 4 to 5, in grades 4 to 5, okay? Students will receive a scale score, percentile rank. That's kind of what makes up the scores to determine the levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now this year, obviously we are in a very unique situation in terms of being in a pandemic. And usually with third grade, the reason why third grade takes their ELA test first, one of the reasons is so that we can get they take their test first for reading, so that, and their scores also come back early, usually before the school year ends, because we need to know who needs summer school, who needs to take the alternative. But this year, students in third grade, they will not be getting their scores until June 30th. So by the time school ends, we will not know how the students did on the FSA. That's why we have to make sure that we assess all students on all the other alternative assessments, so that in the event they don't pass the FSA, at least they pass something. And same with 4th and 5th grade. The scores, since they're taking their test later in May, the scores will not be released until July 30th. Initially, it was supposed to be June 30th. They pushed it back. Initially, third grade scores were supposed to come out May 31st. They pushed it back. All right. Schools will determine how we'll determine how we will provide you the score reports. And the score reports is this. Basically, what this tells you, each student gets a score report on how they did on the FSA. You can actually find this on Virtual Counselor as well after your child takes their test. And basically what it is, it gives you a description. It tells you the score. So it'll tell you little Johnny scored a 3. Yep, right here, if you can see, a level 3, which is satisfactory. Okay, 1 is inadequate. If they scored a level 1, it's inadequate. If they scored a level 2, it's below satisfactory. If they scored a level 3, it's satisfactory. That's perfect. We want them to be proficient, satisfactory or above. Level 4 is proficient, and level 5 is they've hit mastery. Okay. And basically, the purpose of the report is to share with you how the child did, where they are, and it basically is a great interpretation of their performance level. The second page, it tells you in grades, it gives you the chart. Again, basically what I was explaining on the levels. Okay, and it even tells you if they're a level 1, that means it's highly likely to read substantial support. They're going to need a lot of support. Okay. And then this is, to me, I feel like the best part of the report. In here, it tells you how many points out of a possible total, how many they earned, right? So in key ID and details, they tell you out of 15 questions, they got 9 right. They answered 9 correctly. Okay, so it explains to you what types of questions they were asked, and it gives you an idea. And this is really good because it helps the teachers to kind of help on planning and what their students need when they are able to see this as well. There's 2 copies. One copy is kept at the school, and the second copy, I believe, we give it to you, the parents. Okay. So here are some helpful resources to kind of get a little idea of what the test is going to look like. You can always visit the FSA Assessment Portal because it is free of resources, practice. You can even see what a release test looks like. You just get the grade that you need. You can see it in reading, math, and I believe science. And also, there's practice tests where the students could actually do it online or paper-based. Okay. Again, these are where the practice tests are. So if you go here, I would play around with it so you can kind of see what types of questions they're going to ask. You can actually see the release test. It's really good practice. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go through. Let me just kind of look here and make sure there's no one in the lobby. All right, so I don't have anybody in the lobby.
Miss Sally, we did have one question in the chat. It says, on testing days, will students resume class once the test is done?
So is this for a face-to-face student or e-learning?
I don't know. They did not specify. Oh, it's e-learning. They just.
Okay, so yes, we're definitely going to go into that, but I can answer that now. So if you have a child that comes just for the test, right, they will not be doing any schooling. They're actually just going to be taking the test. Once they're done with their test, they go home. They don't need to log back on. Okay. And so, and also for if a student is, let's say, home, if a student is home and their teacher is administering the test, and this is more for the hybrid classes, the blended classes, that child, the day of their test, will not have to log on. They won't have school. They could probably have Canvas materials where the teacher will probably have something up on Canvas, have them do iReady, but because their teacher will be testing, they will not need to log on if they're in a blended class. So for example, Coach Prasad's class, Coach Rodriguez's class, who else? I think that's it, right? That has Coach Benitez's class and Coach Hayes' class. Okay, so if you have an e-learner and let's say the teacher is testing the face-to-face, they won't have class. All right.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. I wanted, I think I came in pretty late, because we was trying to figure out how you log in. My daughter is in the fourth grade, so what I'm asking is if she took this test that's in the third grade, and you're saying she will have to retake this test again for the fourth grade, because that's what I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding. Is it the same testing?
No. So that's a really good question. So she's in fourth grade. There was no FSA test last year. So the test that she'll be taking is the fourth grade test, because that's what we've been instructing her on.
Okay.
So what I was referring to, I think it was probably about the learning gains, because fifth grade, the only grades that had scores were the students that were in fifth grade that took the FSA when they were in third grade. Okay.
Okay. I'm understanding now. Okay.
Okay. Excellent. So I'm going to go through some questions. I may answer your questions through this next section, and then after that, I'll open it up to questions. So will virtual students have to take the FSA assessment? Yes. Per Florida Statute 1008.22, all public school students are required to participate in the statewide assessment program. Schools will work with parents to schedule virtual students to come on campus to take the assessments associated with their grade level ELA, reading, writing, and science. Schools will also follow all health and safety policies, such as wearing masks is mandatory, that is actually policy, social distancing, sanitizing, the works. Is the FSA going to be online, or do they have to come to school? The FSA will be given on paper, and students will be required to come to school to take the assessment. The state assessment is secure and cannot be given at a student's home. Is there a consequence for doing poorly on a FSA in third grade? Per Florida statute, to be promoted to grade 4, a student must score a level 2 or higher on the grade 3 ELA reading. The requirement is not for the grade 3 FSA math. So basically, in order for students to be promoted, the initial assessment is the FSA ELA, but they do not have to pass the math. We want them to pass the math, but if they do not pass the math, but they pass the reading, they are promoted. What happens if the student does not pass the FSA in any grade level? Can he or she retake the FSA? Will my student be able to go to the next grade? Students do not have the option to retake the FSA in the elementary grades. Only grade 3 students must score a level 2 or higher on the grade 3 FSA ELA reading, not the math assessment, in order to be promoted to 4th grade based on the Florida statute. There will be an alternative promotion criteria available if students do not pass the FSA. All student scores are used to make instructional decisions for the following school year. There are many factors when determining if a student should be retained. So if a parent wants to retain their child, that request must come from the parent and in writing to me, the principal. Okay, so if you say, well, you know what, my child in any grade level, K through 5, you can always request for your child to be retained. Is FSA only for one day or multiple days? So in our slide, we do have a testing schedule. However, when we come back from spring break, your teacher along with, you will get this through Parent Link, through Canvas, through your teachers, email, they'll email you. We will be sending your class, your child, a email stating what day they will be tested, okay? So very important, hold on. All right, so we will be sending every parent in grades 3 through 5 a letter for their individual child stating what day and time that they have to come to the school and test, okay? Is there any changes to test questions or scoring that will be granted this year due to COVID-19 pandemic? Understanding teachers and students may have encountered decreased time to cover material and resulting gaps in knowledge. There are no changes to the FSA ELA math and science assessment. The statewide assessment program information guide provides information about FSA and NGSSS assessments, which is the new generation science assessment. That's only for 5th grade, including the considerations governing item and test development, the mechanics of item and test scoring, and the meaning of the different assessments scores. So basically, no, the state is not changing any assessments. Will previous year's material be on the current FSA test? To clarify, will grade 3 questions be on the grade 4 test due to the fact grade 3 students did not take the FSA last year? No, students are assessed on the standards associated to their grade level. The test item specifications and test design summaries provide the standards covered on each test. And this is the link where you can kind of see the sample question. What accommodations will be provided to IEP or 504 students during the FSA testing, such as additional time or seating or setting? Students will receive their allowable accommodations that are listed on their IEP or 504 plan, and students should be currently using the accommodations in the classroom and online. So again, the students that have an IEP or have certain accommodations, we will also send you a letter stating when, what time your child will be tested, okay? And that is pretty much it. We are going to open the floor for questions. Thank you again. It does definitely take a village. I want to thank all our parents for being so amazing, both virtual and face-to-face. We have actually increased. We are probably at 50% capacity at our school. So the parents are, you know, feeling a little comfortable sending their kids back to school. And I understand those that are still doing e-learning, it's quite all right. But we welcome you back anytime. So just before we open up the floors with questions, again, I'm Principal Ellie, for those of you that have just joined us. We also have my assistant principal, Ms. Alvarez, our wonderful test coordinator, and our literacy coach, and our SAC chair. She was the one presenting at the SAC during our SAC meeting, which is Coach Charpentier, and also Coach Ojeda. I forgot to put her on there, but if you have any other questions, you can always call us. Feel free to call us at 754-323-6800, and always visit our website. I always try to keep it up to date and provide information on our website. So if you go on our website, you'll see the testing schedule. Tomorrow, this PowerPoint will be online as well as the recording, okay? And that is it. So at this time, I'm going to answer any questions that you may have. Charpentier, if you can check the chat for me. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Miss Ellie, we did have one question in the chat. It says, so if there are no other options but to attend school that day, what will the testing setting be like? How many kids will be in the testing area at one time?
Good question. Okay, so let me just say, face-to-face students, whether they're testing or not, they remain in school. Did I just breathe? Okay, that was weird. So if you send your child to school already, we're gonna have teachers, we're gonna have coverage for them if they're not testing. So that's not a problem. But the e-learners, the ones that come on campus, they will still be testing with their teacher. They may not be, they're gonna be in another room. So for example, we have class capacity. So in certain rooms, we can't have more than 18 students in a class. In other rooms, because they're larger, we can't have more than 24 kids in a class. However, because our numbers are pretty small, we are dividing them, and we may be moving them to larger spaces, larger rooms. So for example, we may have to test in a cafeteria because it's a big place. And let's say a teacher that has, let's say 22 kids that may not fit in a class, we may have to go and test them in a larger area. It may be in the media center, it may be in the cafeteria, But so far, many of our students, they can actually fit in the classroom. So we're ensuring that we're always 6 feet distance, and that we are making sure that the testing environment, which is very important, is very conducive to students testing, because we want them to do really well on that day, especially since some of them haven't been in school all year long. That's an excellent question. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, and that was all for the chat. There is not any other questions, so people can ask.
Okay, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Actually, you know what? I think I see people's hand raised. So go ahead.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Go ahead.
No,
Great.
I had one question. So would they be coming in, well, would you guys be testing them as they come in, like private to students? That's what I'm asking. Because I know most facilities and businesses, they're giving temperature testing and anything like that. So do you guys do that as well before the test, or?
Okay, that is an excellent question, and I'm so glad you brought that up. So we do not, as a district, nor as a school, do temperature checks. So we don't use the thermometer going in checking everybody. What I would suggest, if you feel as if a child is not feeling well, if your child, listen to your child. If they say, oh, my throat hurt, or they're coughing, it's a little persistent, they say, I don't feel good, do not send them, please, because there are certain buzzwords, you know, that is part of the COVID symptoms. If they hear it, our teachers have to send them to the isolation room. Our isolation nurse assesses them, and there might be a possibility where they may be sent home for 14 days, and we do not want that. So if, let's say for that day, that child, because we don't do temperature checks, if the child doesn't look good, I would make sure you do your own self-assessment of your child every morning, every single morning. And what I would do, don't worry if they're gonna miss the day of their test, because we have makeups. I forgot to mention the makeups. If a child is not able to come on their day, don't worry. As long as they, we get them in the beginning of the makeup session, the window, we're gonna, trust me, my coordinator is going to be calling. We have a list that we're keeping track of students who did not take the test, who missed the test, and we're gonna be calling to schedule makeups. So, yes.
Okay, I just have one more question also as well. Farthest for, because my daughter is asthmatic, and I notice sometimes she don't leave her mask on for too long, a long period of time. Would that be a problem, or are you guys going to accommodate with that or anything like that?
So unfortunately,
what would happen? Because that's what I'm trying to find out.
Yes, so we do have a policy, what is it, 2505, I believe. Our policy is our face covering policy. It is mandatory that while we're on campus, on school grounds, except if you're outside and 6 feet apart, your mask has to be on.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more thing also, farthest for the test, will they have snacks be permitted, or like will you guys give certain breaks for snacks, or?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. So we have already, there's two things. We have little goodie bags that we are going to be giving the students. And then we do have snacks for the students after testing. And then if they're staying for lunch, we're gonna be providing lunch for them. And trust me, we'll hang on to your kids. Even if you're picking them up, we'll hang on to them. We'll make sure they're well supervised and they're good and they're fed. But I do know when we called some parents, the parents did say that they won't be eating lunch in the cafeteria or be eating lunch at all, that they'll send lunch with them or the parents will pick them up. So let me just share with you that testing does begin at 9 a.m. It's going to be from 9 to 11, those students that do not have accommodations or have extra time. So for example, there are some students that has extra time because they have an IEP. So depending on what the IEP says, they can actually have the entire day from 9 until 2 o'clock to finish their test. But if a student does not have an IEP or have any accommodation, they will have 80 minutes for the reading and math and science, and the 120 minutes for the writing.
Okay, good. Mm.
All right, all great questions. Any other questions? So in the next couple of weeks, I am going to give you a wonderful break for spring break. You will not hear any parent links from me. But after that, I will be sending several parent links to keep you updated with FSA information. Your teachers will be emailing you for your child to come in to test. It's going to be great. We're going to make sure everybody's safe, everybody's healthy, and everybody does well. So again, like I stated, this PowerPoint presentation will be online as of tomorrow, and the recording, just in case you want to go back to it. And you can feel free to ask your teacher for any questions that you may have, or even call me if you have any questions, or our testing coordinator or our assistant principal. Is there anybody else that has any other questions? Did I do that great of a job? All right, so again, just a friendly reminder, tomorrow's early release. There's no school on Friday. So our pickup, the material pickup, just again, is only for students that are at home, because the students that are already face-to-face, they won't need the materials to be picked up, because they'll already have their materials at school with their teacher. So these materials that we're providing are the practice that I shared with you guys of the different types of questions the students will see. And the teachers have done an amazing job providing the packets, working on the packets. Now, in the event you can't come tomorrow, please send me an email, because we are going to track those that come, and we'll send out an email. During spring break, our school will be open. So you can call to schedule an appointment to let us know when you're gonna come by next week, Monday through, we'll tell you the days, because we're not gonna be open every day. I believe it's Tuesday through Thursday. And then you can pick it up then, and we'll tell you the hours, okay? Because I really don't want your child to miss out on the packets, especially since the test is paper-based. We want them to get adequate practice, even if they're home. Okay? All right, so I am going to end the meeting if we don't have any more questions. Thank you all, parents, for joining us. You all are amazing. Please be safe. Have a great and safe spring break, and testing will begin April 12th for certain grade levels. Okay. All right, thank you. Have a great evening. I'll stay behind just in case anybody has any questions, okay? So I'll wait till everybody logs off, just in case someone thought about something. You can start logging off if you don't have any questions. Thank you all my fabulous teachers that have been on here. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to show up. I think I see some first timers there. So welcome and thank you again. And if you have a child in first grade, tomorrow is field day for our first graders. We will have field day for grades 3 through 5 after FSA. We're gonna have lots of fun. Good night, everybody.
Hey.
Hello, Miss Alvarez. This is our assistant principal, Miss Alvarez.
I was here. I was just watching and listening to everything, but it was a great presentation. I think you answered everything. I was just looking on the chat one more time. Nothing
Awesome.
there.
Hold on, let me stop recording.